Welcome to Graceful Embroidery and to another of my mini tutorials. Today we're going to be looking at two of the daily freebies and we're going to combine them. And we're going to do this on my Epic 2. Now this can also be done in software and I will explain to you in a little while how that can be done and the alternatives and what I'm going to do to change the designs to make it easier for you, but I'm losing you. Let's just open up design number, this one. Let's open up this design here, and I've selected a 200 by 200 hoop, and I'm going to take this down to the bottom. Now if you haven't got your grid on, it's this little button here, but I think when you're positioning designs like we are, this is the better option, better way of doing it. And I'm just going to stick it down there on that line. I'm going to go back into my folder which has got the freebies for this event. As you can see, I've got this button here changes how you see things, and we are going to go for this one here. And you can see it's very similar, and it is in fact a corner design. Let's zoom. Oops, no, that's definitely what I want to do. Thank goodness we've got a backwards button here. So we've got these two designs loaded up here on the screen, and we can look at this one, make sure that that is, I'm going to, no, we don't want to rotate, move it down just a bit onto that line and make sure that one is just onto that line. And this is the area where there's a problem. It's not absolutely impossible for you to move this one over, but you'd have to be very careful when the stitch outs and stop on the colours and be watching literally stitch by stitch to eliminate the flower behind. But we're not going to do that today. I think you'd find it a lot easier to do that in your software. And looking at these designs again, I'm going to take this flower and put it at the end of the design so that it's easier to eliminate it. Right, we're going to come out, click that one, and we see the whole design. Now we're going to copy this one, which is this button here, and we're going to move it up here, select the rotate, wrong way, and bring it in here. And there you see we have a very simple border. I'm going to scroll in and check that the tips of these flowers are lined up nicely, and we've almost got a, now theoretically if you're a mathematician it would be quite complicated to look at the dimensions of this and that and find out the difference and then do the same down here, but I'm just going to do it by eye. And I can, yeah, it's not too bad. Right, if we hit the layers, I don't know what that tab is, I can't think what its proper name is, you can see the sequence of the stitch out. Now if I'd brought in the corner first, I would have had to move these, so you select each one and you've got a little button here which will move that design down or up accordingly. And it's nicer to stitch the colours here, here and then here. So we'll select all of them and we'll come down here and click that, and when we do that it moves everything centrally, and as you can check that on the dimensions down here, it's 0.0 and 0.0. Right, go. Now on this page just for those who are not familiar, because I don't think I've talked too much about the embroidery stitch out welcome page. The Epics have 2 needle plates, and the difference you can see here is on this gap. And for embroidery you want the little gap, but obviously if you're sewing and you're doing zigzags you need this big gap here, but this gives better support to your embroidery. So we have the straight stitch plate selected, and the blue dot underneath shows us that. We're going to stitch out in the 200 by 200 hoop. We have our sensor Q foot, which is the foot that I prefer to use most of the time. The deluxe stitch system is on, and I've also got the thread cutter and jump stitch trims on. You can turn them off, and in some circumstances that's better to do that, but it's really down to personal preference, as is the speed that you stitch out your designs. I'm afraid, apart from metallic thread, I do mine at full speed, but everybody has their own personal preferences. Down here we have the colour options and the basting options. Now we can baste around the design, or we can baste around the hoop, and I'm going to baste around the design. Now I'm going to disable these. The colour options, the colour block sort will sort all the colours and stitch all the yellows, all the greens together, but it will stop between each section, each colourway. So if you've got 5 stitch outs of yellow, it will stop 5 times. If you put the colour merge on, then it will do all the yellows without stopping, and then all the greens, hopefully. I think this is one of the most difficult things to get clear in your head, but if you're sitting with your machine it doesn't really matter, and you can, if you're clever, move things around. So we click continue, and the embroidery unit over there is clicking itself into place, and it tells me to attach my hoop. I'm not going to do that for a minute. I'm just going to get rid of this page, which, as you can see, is the fix. Now, on this machine, and probably on others, there are often more than one way of doing things. And over here, if I click the fix button, this will disappear, and I can put that on again. And the same with the blocks, the merging that we were talking about. These are the 2 buttons here. And this one here is a very important button. It actually shows you what the stitches for the current stitch out will be. Let's just swipe this so it's sitting nicely on the screen. And obviously you can take that off and just have the design showing, but I'm just scrolling in so we can more or less see everything. Right, that's fine. So at the moment it's showing the whole embroidery, and it's not showing us what this stitch block's going to be, but when we click on that it does. And then you can use the cotton reels down here to see the sequence, and as you can see that nicely went through. So you need to be aware when you move these things that you will actually move the sequence and it won't start at the beginning. So there we are, we've got our corners, and I'm going to stitch them out and talk to you and show you the result. The corner design is now stitched out, and as you can see I've got the coaster mat to show you. It's soaked overnight, and I thought it'd be quite interesting to put it on here and show it to you. The colours are not too bad with an overnight soaking, so that maybe the longer that you soak it the better it looks. And the back tidied up quite nicely. It was fiddly, but I think you'll agree it's really nice. Just be careful, very careful that you set your iron to a very low setting so that you don't burn sheer fabrics. You hardly notice these joins, But yeah, I've just got to find a place for it now. Anyway, here's the corner design all stitched out. And I just wanted to share with you that I made a mistake, and how that when this happens to you, you needn't panic too much. The stitch outs, the order everything stitched out went extremely well. But for some reason or other, when I was near to finishing, in fact just before I did the gold centres, I noticed that these 4 flowers here have been stitched out all in one colour. So if you look really carefully, you can see that perhaps they look slightly distorted because I put the darker orchid colour over the top. You can get away with cover-ups, as I call them, and probably most people, apart from you, are not aware of them. But that's the corner design, and I shall go in, and by the time you watch this, these designs will have been altered, and the flowers will be separated on the end to make it easier for you to exclude them if you want to. I hope you've enjoyed that and it's been useful. Another way to stitch out one of the daily freebies.